Hi, everyone, and a very warm welcome to all of you to this episode of Mahabharat. This version of Mahabharat is the translated version of Ved Vyas Mahabharat by Kisari Mohan Ganguli. This is an honest attempt to share the version with the listeners. Adi Parva Continued. Section 25, Astik Parva Continued. Sati said, "Then that bird of great strength and energy, and capable of going at will to every place, repaired to his mother's side on the other shore of the great ocean. Thither lived Vinata in affliction, defected in wager, and put into state of slavery. Once Kadru called Vinata, who had prostrated herself before the former, addressed her these words in the presence of her son. O gentle Vinata, there is in the midst of the ocean, in a remote quarter, a delightful and fair region inhabited by the Nagas. Bear me thither. At this, that mother of the bird of fair feathers bore on her shoulders the mother of the snakes. And Garuda, also directed by his mother's bird, carried on his back the snakes. And that ranger of the skies, born of Vinata, began to ascend towards the sun. And thereupon the snakes, scorched by the rays of the sun, swooned away. And Kadru, seeing her sons in that state, prayed to Indra, saying, I bow to thee, thou lord of all the gods. I bow to thee, thou slayer of Vritra. I bow to thee, thou slayer of Namuchi. O thou of thousand eyes, consort of Sachi, by thy showers be thou the protector of the snakes scorched by the sun. O thou best of deities, thou art our great protector. O Purandara, thou art able to grant rain in torrents. Thou art Vayu, the air, the clouds, fire, and the lightning of the skies. Thou art the propeller of the clouds, and has been called the great cloud, that is, that which will drunken the universe at the end of Yuga. Thou art the fierce and incomparable thunder, and the roaring clouds. Thou art the creator of the worlds and their destroyer. Thou art unconquered. Thou art the light of all creatures, Aditya, Vibhavasu, and wonderful elements. Thou art the ruler of all the gods. Thou art Vishnu. Thou hast a thousand eyes. Thou art a god and the final resource. Thou art, O deity, all Amrita and the most adorned Soma. Thou art the moment, the lunar day, the Bala, minute, and thou art the Shana, 4 minutes. Thou art the light fortnight and also the dark fortnight. Thou art Kala, thou Kashta, and thou Truti. Thou art the year, the seasons, the month, the night, and the days. Thou art the fair earth with her mountains and forests. Thou art also the firmaments resplendent in the sun. Thou art the great oceans with heaving billows and abounding with whales, swallows of whales, and makaras and various fishes. Thou art of great renown, always adorned by the wise and by the great rishis, with minds wrapped in contemplation. Thou drinkest for the good of all creatures the som juice in sacrifices and the clarified butter offered with sacred invocation. Thou art always worshipped at sacrifices by Brahmanas moved by desire of fruit. O thou of incomparable mass of strength, thou art sung in the Vedas and the Vedangas. It is for that reason that learned Brahmanas bent upon performing sacrifices study the Vedas with every care. And so ends the 25th section in the Astik Parv of the Adi Parv. Section 26, Astik Parv Continued. Sati said, And then Indra, the king of gods, having the best of horses for his bearer, thus adorned by Kadru, covered the entire firmament with masses of blue clouds. And he commanded the clouds, saying, Pour ye, you vilifying and blessed drops. And those clouds, luminous with lightning and incessantly roaring against each other in the welkin, poured abundant water. And the sky, in consequence of those wonderful and terribly rolling clouds that were incessantly begetting vast quantities of water, looked as if the end of Yuga had come. And in consequence of the myriads of waves caused in the falling torrents, the deep roar of the clouds, the flashing of lightning, the violence of the wind, and the general agitation, the sky looked as if dancing in madness. The sky became overcast, and the rays of the sun and moon totally disappeared in consequence of that incessant downpour. And upon Indra's causing that downpour, the Nagas became exceedingly delighted, and the earth was filled with water all around. And the cool, clear water reached even the nether regions, and there were countless waves of water all over the earth. And the snakes with their mother reached in safety the island called Ramanikya. And so ends the 26th section of the Astik Parv of the Adi Parv. Section 27. Astik Parv Continued. Sati said, and then the Nagas, drenched by that shower, became exceedingly glad, and borne by that bird of fair feathers, they soon arrived at the island. That island had been fixed by the Creator of the universe as the abode of the Makaras. There they saw the terrible Lavarnya Samudra, or ocean of salt. On arriving there with Garuda, they saw there a beautiful forest washed by the waters of the sea and resounding with the music of winged choirs. And there were clusters of trees all around, laden with various fruits and flowers. And there were also fair mansions all around, and many tanks full of lotuses, and it was also adorned with many lakes of pure water. And if was refreshed with pure incense breathing breezes, and it was adorned with many trees that grew only on the hills of Malaya, and seemed by their tallness to reach the very heavens. And there were also various other trees whose flowers were scattered all around by the breeze. And that forest was charming and dear to the Gandharvas, and always gave them pleasure. And it was full of bees, maddened with the honey they sucked. And the sight of all this was exceedingly delightful. And in consequence of the many things there capable of charming everybody, that forest was fair, delightful, and holy. And echoing with the notes of various birds, it delighted greatly the sons of Kadru. And the snakes, after arriving at the forest, began to enjoy themselves. And they commanded the Lord of birds, that is, Garuda of great energy, saying, Convey us to some other fair island with pure water. Thou ranger of the skies, thou must have seen many fair regions while coursing through the air. Garuda, alter reflecting for a few moments, asked his mother Vinata, saying, Why, mother, have I to do the bidding of the snakes? Vinata, thus questioned by him, spake into the range of the skies. Her son invested very every virtue of great energy, a great strength, as follows. Vinata said, O thou best of birds, I have become from misfortune the slave of my co wife. The snakes, by an act of deception, caused me to lose my bet and have made me so. When his mother had told him the reason, that rakers of the skies, dejected with grief, addressed the snakes, saying, Tell me, ye snakes, by bringing that what thing, gaining a knowledge of what thing, or doing what acts of prowess, We may be freed from this state of bondage through, Sati continued. The snakes, hearing him, said, Bring thou Amrita by force. Then, O bird, shall you be freed from bondage. And so ends the 27th section in the Astik Parv of the Adi Parv. Section 28. Astik Parv Continued. Sati said, Garuda, thus addressed by the snakes, then said unto his mother, I shall go to bring Amrita. I desire to eat something in the way. Direct me to it. Vinata replied, In a remote region in the midst of the ocean, the Nishadas have their fair home. Having eaten the thousands of Nishadas that live there, bring thou Amrita. But let not thy heart be ever set on taking the life of a Brahman. Of all creatures, a Brahman must not be slain. He is indeed like fire. A Brahmin, when angry, becomes like fire or the sun, like poison or an edged weapon. A Brahmin, it is said, is the master of all the creatures. For those and other reasons, a Brahmin is the adorned of the virtues. O child, he is never to be slain by thee, ever, even in anger. Hostility with Brahmins, therefore, would not proper under any circumstances. O sinless one, neither Agni nor Surya truly can consume so much as does a Brahmin of rigid vows when angry. By these various indications must thou know a good Brahman. Indeed, a Brahman is the firstborn of all creatures, the foremost of the four orders, the father and the master of all. Garuda then asked, O mother, of what form is a Brahman? Of what behavior? And of what prowess? Doth he shine like fire, or is he of tranquil mien? And, O mother, it behoveth thee to tell me, my inquiring self, these auspicious signs by which I may recognize a Brahman. Vinata replied, saying, O child, him shouldn't thou know at the best among Brahmanas, who having entered thy throat would torture thee as a fish hook or burn thee as a blazing charcoal. A Brahmin must never be slain by thee, even in anger. And Vinata, out of affliction for her son, again told him these words, Him shouldn't thou know as a good Brahman who would not be digested by that stomach. Although she knew the incomparable strength of her son, yet she blessed him heartily, for, deceived by the snakes, she was very much afflicted by woe. And she said, Let Marut, the god of winds, protect thy wings, and Surya and Soma, thy vertebral regions. Let Agni protect thy head, and the Vayus thy whole body. I also, O child, engaged in beneficial ceremonies, shall sit here for your welfare. Go then, O child, in safety to accomplish thy purpose. Sati continued. Then Garuda, having heard the words of his mother, stretched his wings and ascended the skies. And endued with great strength, he soon fell upon Nishadas, hungry and like another Yama. And bent upon slaying the Nishadas, he raised a great quantity of dust that overspread the firmament, and sucked up water from amidst the ocean, shook the trees growing on the adjacent mountain, and then the Lord of Birds obstructed the principal thoroughfares of the town of the Nishadas by his mouth, increasing his orifice at will. And the Nishadas began to fly in great haste in the direction of the open mouth of the great serpent eater. And as birds in great affliction ascend by thousands into the skies when the trees in the forest are shaken by the winds, so those Nishadas, blinded by the dust raised by the storm, entered the wide extending cleft of Garuda's mouth, open to receive them. And then the hungry lord of all the rangers of the skies, that oppressor of enemies, endured with great strength and moving with great celerity to achieve his end, closed his mouth. killing innumerable Nishadas following the occupation of fishermen. So ends the 28th section of the Astik Parv of the Adi Parv. Section 29. Astik Parv Continued. Sauti continued. A certain Brahmin with his wife had entered the throat of that ranger of the skies. The former began to burn the bird's throat like a pierce of flaming charcoal. Him Garuda addressed, saying, O best of Brahmins, come out soon from my mouth, which I open for thee. A Brahmin must never be slain by me, although he may be always engaged in sinful practices. Unto Garuda, who had thus addressed him, that Brahman said, O let this woman of the Nishada caste, who is my wife, also come out with me. And Garuda said, Taking the woman also of the Nishada caste with thee, come out soon. Save thyself without delay, since thou hast not yet been digested by the heat of my stomach. Sauti continued, and then that Brahmin, accompanied by his wife of the Nishada caste, came out and praising Garuda, wended whatever way he liked. And when that Brahmin had come out with his wife and the Lord of Birds, fleet as the mind, stretching his wings, ascended the skies, he then saw his father, and hailed by him, Garuda of incomparable prowess made a proper answer. And the great Rishi Kashyap then asked him, O child, is it well with thee? Dost thou get sufficient food every day? Is there food in plenty for thee in the world of men? Garuda replied, My mother is ever well, and so is my brother, and so am I. But father, I do not always obtain plenty of food, for which my peace is incomplete. I am sent by the snakes to fetch the excellent Amrita. Indeed, I shall fetch it today for emancipating my mother from her bondage. My mother commands me, saying, Eat thou the nishadas. I have eaten them by thousands, but my hunger is not appeased. Therefore, O worshipful one, point out to me some other food, by eating which, O master, I may be strong enough to bring away Amrita by force. Thou shouldn't indicate some food wherewith I may appease my hunger and thirst. Kashyap replied, This lake thou seest is sacred. It hath been heard of ever in the heavens. There is an elephant with the face downwards who continually draggeth a tortoise, his elder brother. I shall speak to you in detail of their hostility in former life. Just listen as I tell you why they are here. There was of old a great rishi of the name Vibhavasu. He was exceedingly wrathful. He had a younger brother of the name Supritika. The latter was averse to keeping his wealth jointly with his brothers, and Supritika would always speak of partition. After some time, his brother Vibhavasu told Supritika, It is from great foolishness that persons blinded by love of wealth always desire to make a partition of their patrimony. After afflicting a partition, they fight with each other, deluded by wealth. Then again, enemies in the guise of friends cause estrangements between ignorant and selfish men, alter. They become separated in wealth, and pointing out faults confirm their quarrels, so that the latter soon fall one by one. Absolute ruin very soon overtakes the separated. For these reasons, the wise never speak approvingly of partition among brothers, who, when divided, do not regard the most authoritative sutras and live always in fear of each other. But as thou, Supritika, without regarding my advice, impelled by desire of separation, always wishes to make an arrangement about your property, thou shalt become an elephant. Supritika thus cursed and then spake into Vibhavasu, Thou also shalt become a tortoise, moving in the midst of the waters. And thus, on account of the wealth, those two fools, Supritika and Vibhavasu, from each other's curse, have become an elephant and a tortoise, respectively. Owing to their wrath, they have both become inferior animals, and they are engaged in hostilities with each other, proud of their excessive strength and the weight of their bodies. And in the lake, those two beings of huge bodies are engaged in acts according to their former hostility. Look here, one amongst them, the handsome elephant of huge body, is even now approaching. Hearing his roar, the tortoise, also of huge body, living within the waters, cometh out, agitating the lake violently, and seeing him, the elephant, curling his trunk, rusheth into the water. And endued with great energy, with motion of his tusks and fore part of his trunk and tail and feet, he agitates the water of the lake, abounding with fishes. And the tortoise also of great strength, with upraised head, cometh forward for an encounter. And the elephant is 6 yojans in height and twice that measure in circumference. And the height of the tortoise also is 3 yojans and his circumference 10. Eat thou up both of them that are madly engaged in the encounter and bent upon slaying each other, and then accomplish the task that thou desirest. Eating that fierce elephant, which looketh like a huge mountain, and resembleth a mass of dark clouds, bring thou Amrita. Sauti continued. Having said so unto Garuda, he, Kashyap, blessed him, saying, Blessed be thou when thou art in combat with the gods. Let water pitchers filled to the brim, Brahmins, kine, and other specious objects bless thee, thou oviparous one. And, O thou of great strength, when thou art engaged with the gods in combat, let the Riks and the Yajus, the Samas, the sacred sacrificial butter, all the mysteries, Upanishad, constitute thy strength. Garuda, thus addressed by his father, wended to the side of that lake. He saw that expanse of clear water with birds of various kinds all around, and resembling the words of his father, that ranger of the skies, possessed of great swiftness of motion, seized the elephant and the tortoise, one in each claw. And that bird then soared high into the air, and he came upon a sacred place called Alama, Alamva, and saw many divine trees. And struck by the wind raised by his wings, those trees began to shake with fear. And those divine trees, having golden boughs, feared that they would break. And the anger of the skies, ranger of the skies, seeing that those trees capable of granting every wish were quaking with fear, went to other trees of incomparable appearance. And those gigantic trees were adorned with fruits of gold and silver and branches of precious gems. And they were washed with the water of sea, and there was a large banyan amongst them, which had grown into a gigantic proportions that spoke unto the law of the word, coursing towards it with fleetness of the mind. Sit thou on this large branch of mine, exceeding 100 yojans, and eat the elephant and the tortoise. When that burst of birds of great swiftness and of a body resembling a mountain quickly alighted upon a brow of that banyan tree, the resort of thousands of winged creatures that brought also full of leaves shook and broke down. So ends the 29th section in the Astik Parv of the Adi Parv. With this, we come to an end to this episode of Mahabharat and its heroes. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Until next time, this is your host, Madhulika Rachahan, signing off. Stay healthy always. Narayan Narayan.